Welcome to the Daily Tokyo Hockey Show on the FIH YouTube channel with me, Sarah Juggins. In a packed show today, we'll be taking a deep dive into the men's semi-finals, which provided hockey fans with two great matches. We're also talking to two members of the third team, the umpires who play such a vital role in supporting the action on the pitch. To give us the weight of their experience and insight today, we have USA field hockey star Lauren Moyer, who has 81 international caps to her name, including the 2018 World Cup, the 2017 Hockey World League semi-finals, where her team took gold, and the 2016 Junior World Cup. Lauren, how have you been enjoying the hockey since we last spoke?
Yeah, it's been thrilling. Lots of great games in there, some incredible quarterfinals, and yeah, looking forward to the women's and especially the men's final. So, yeah.
Brilliant. We also have a guest appearance today from Jamie Mulders. Jamie is the former head coach to the German women's national team, the China women's national team, and was himself a gold medal winner with the German men's team at the 2002 World Cup. Welcome to you, Jamie. How are you today?
Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. Excited from both semi-finals already.
Brilliant. And then joined by two umpires from Oceania, New Zealanders Amber Church and Kelly Hudson. Amber is umpiring her second Olympics, and we most recently saw her in action in the quarterfinals when she took charge of Germany versus Argentina. Hi, Amber, how are you?
Kia ora koutou katoa. Yeah, really good, thank you.
Brilliant, good to see you. And for Kelly, this is your third Olympics, and in the pool match between Netherlands and Germany, you celebrated 150 international matches, which is a remarkable achievement. Thank you very much for taking time out today to see us. Hello.
Hi there, Jaxie. Thanks, guys. Awesome to be here. Great to be a part of this. Thanks for having us.
Brilliant. So we're going to talk to the umpires first. I mean, first of all, a very, very belated congratulations on being at the Olympics. I mean, that in itself is a huge achievement. But we're particularly excited to chat to you because you're the first people we've spoken to who have actually been on the pitch in the heat and the humidity and the excitement and everything else as well. So I just come to Amber first of all. Amber, just how energy sapping is it out there?
Yeah, it gets pretty hot, to be honest. But there's lots of stuff that we've done in preparation to be prepared for that. They made it really clear exactly what to expect, and the team that went to the test event in particular fed back a lot of information to us about what to expect. So it does take it out of you a little bit, but there's lots of things that we've done to make sure that we can replace the energy that we need to make sure that we're performing for the whole match.
Absolutely. Kelly, what measures, I mean, Amber's talked about being looked after, but can you give us some practical examples of measures that are in place to help you keep cool, help you cool down, and help you recover after these sessions?
Yeah, one of the big things is it's the combination of the heat and the humidity and being able to stay hydrated. So we've got ice vests as part of our kit that we can access for those day games where it's searing. It's 35 plus degrees. I think Churchy was on a game where it hit the record. So I think that was in the 40s. So we have those ice vests and they expand the quarter time from 2 minutes to 4 minutes as well. So you can just get extra fluid on board. Drinking a lot of fluid beforehand and kind of hyperhydrating before you go out there, and then just making sure afterwards that recovery intake is really, really important to not just fluid but recovery food as well. So yeah, those are a couple of things, and trying to just get out of that heat in between times at the halftime break and things is important too.
Yeah, I mean, one of the points that we've made on an earlier show is the fact that just like the players, you have to cope with extreme temperatures. Unlike the players, you can't take substitution breaks every so often. So you are actually running for a flat out 4 times 15 minutes and having to keep up with the action. The big decisions quite often come towards the end of the game. So Amber, how do you make sure that you're still mentally sharp at the end of the game with all of that pressure of the heat, the humidity, and the match action as well?
Training is really important. So teams, train regularly. They put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we do exactly the same. It's not just about turning up here and seeing what comes to you. I guess there's been hours and hours that people have put in. They've trained for these conditions. They work really hard. They umpire a lot of games back home. Some people may umpire 2 or 3 games in a row just so that they have that fatigue to then be able to make sure that in games like here, where you do get really tired,
that you've got the mental capabilities to make sure that you're performing and making those high pressure decisions. Because like you say, you know, it's hot, it is tiring, but we want to be getting our decisions correct, and to do that we need to be prepared, and everyone has put in a lot of work to be prepared for this. And yeah, I think that's key, you know, making sure that you are prepared before you get here, because when you get here, this is just the icing on the cake, you know. You're putting into practice everything that you've done prior to getting here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you've had some amazing feedback from commentators from across the channels on the fantastic job that the umpiring team are doing. I know, Jamie, we were having a chat before the show started, and you had a sort of comment about a newish piece of equipment that the umpires are wearing this time around.
Yeah, I was just curious about the new camera angle where we can use and we can see during the games. So the umpires are wearing now this body cam, which I was amazed about, because the capturing from slow motions and from highlights from this kind of view was to me, it was outstanding. And my question to Amber and Kelly was just like, okay, how convenient is it to wear it and to use it? And how comfortable is it during the game?
Yeah, when we had, it's totally our choice to wear it or not. So we had the opportunity to try it prior to the event starting. They showed us some clips of the camera in action, and that was a pretty easy sell, as you've been impressed by the images that have come through from the games. So I was keen to wear it right from the start. It really does show that I think we have one of the best seats in the house when we're out there umpiring, and it gives a real insight into our movement, and also the emotions that are out there in the players. And I think you mentioned a goal where there's a ball spaced gap and the ball goes through there, you know, and you can only really capture that if you're kind of in there looking at it. So at this event, it's extremely comfortable. They come in, they set it up. It's basically a headband type thing that just sits above your ears. You can't really feel it, and when you're on the field, you're just moving around as normal. There's a bit of a battery pack that doesn't look super flattering, but just wraps around your waist, and you just tie it tight, and away you go. So it's a small price to pay, certainly not an inconvenience for, I think, what adds massive value to showcasing our sport, and it's a real treat to be able to give people an insight, I think. So
absolutely. Yeah. I'm just having a flight of fantasy here and wondering what would happen if you put it on the players as well. I mean, Lauren, that would give you quite an insight as an athlete, wouldn't it, if you could see, you know, look back at what you'd seen.
Yeah, you'd have to be quite careful. You know, you're on live. But no, I think Kelly's absolutely right. It gives you such an interesting vantage point. I think it's been very, very cool to see those camera angles. And, you know, as players, we're lucky enough to see that. But yeah, the fans at home, you don't get that vantage point. So yeah, on players, I could imagine that it would be, you know, quite cool as well. It would have to be up here. So maybe it would be a little bit in the way for vision. And if it's a body cam, you know, maybe you're just looking at the floor. But maybe technology will advance one day. We'll get one on there.
We'll see. Turning our attention to today's matches, we saw an opening semi-final between Belgium and India, which saw Belgium take a very early lead through Loic Lopart before India came back into the game with 2 goals from Mandeep and Harmanpreet. But it was that man, Alexander Hendricks, who scored 3 goals, 2 penalty corners, 1 penalty stroke, and it broke India's, and the nation actually, of India's heart. The final goal was scored while India had removed their keeper and had gone for an all-out attack, and veteran John Doman scored on his 421st appearance for the Red Lions. We'll come to you in a minute, Lauren, but Jamie, first of all, your thoughts on that game?
I think it was far closer than from somebody expected. So I think credit to India, they have done incredibly well. Credit to the coaching staff that they really made sure that India is in a really good balance from offense and defensive play. And I have to say, Belgium seems to be focused on only one thing, and that's just the gold medal. And that's what they are talking about for long. And they're really, following their words and really coming down to great action. So when you see Hendricks is not on the pitch, then Loic Lopart takes over and executed quite well. And when you go through the whole squad, it's not only for me the big names, it's not Lopart, Hendricks or Tom Bone, it's the other guys around. There's really everyone doing his job in a phenomenal way. And the way, to me, the coaching staff is running this is, it comes down to an unique final. I think it's a clash of giants, Belgium against Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the players who I thought had a very good game today was Wegners. He was everywhere, and he was playing some great stuff. Lauren, we've talked throughout the show, well, throughout all the shows, about the importance of penalty corners, and we've spoken about the number that haven't been converted. Today, if you looked at the bald stats, you would see that Belgium had 14 penalty corners and converted 3, and you might think, wow, they've got all that firepower and they've only converted 3, but there's actually a different story, isn't there, behind those figures? So I just wondered if you wanted to give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at penalty corners, if you're not getting the goal, the next best thing is to get a reward. So if you're not the one that's directly involved in that corner, it's absolutely your job to get into advantageous positions so that you can get a redirect back on cage, or you're looking for a foot or a foul so that you can get your threats from the top of the circle, another shot on goal. And corner defense is exceptionally tiring, especially as you're going back to back to back. It's 4v8 or 9 in there, and it's all the pressure in the world. You're running full speed. It's fast. It's physical. So the margin of error is really small, and especially for a team like Belgium that has Hendricks up there, you give him multiple opportunities, and one of those is going to go back in the net. So yeah, although they only scored 3, they did exceptionally well to win those rewards and give Alex and those threats at the top multiple opportunities to score. So that was the difference today.
Yeah,
Or yesterday, I guess.
Yes. I mean, as a coach, Jamie, it sort of makes you think about your penalty corners in a slightly wider way, doesn't it? Because as Lauren says, it's not just about taking the shot; it's what you do next to make sure that you then make the most of, if it's saved, what the next opportunity is. So, is that something that's changing, or is that something that's always been there, but we're just seeing it a little bit more?
I think we've seen, for example, what has happened today, that they had so many opportunities and then at the end scored by 3. It's the same at the World Cup in Utrecht long ago when Bram Lohmans flicked. So the Dutch have beaten Australia in the semis, and it was just Bram was flicking, and it was just clear, okay, he will score 1 or 2 times for sure. And then it starts becoming a mind game. So for me, it has always been a kind of, okay, what's my job and what can happen next? So at least it's up to those who are not at the D, so are covering, I would say, the rest of the field. So making sure that if we have a missed trap or if they start the counter, what's our job? How can we cover it? And so everyone is always involved, although everyone is only focusing on stopper and flicker. But what to me comes to the table is that you can see that most of the nations really make sure, okay, we are just flicking hard onto the goal, and then we go for a rebound. So you don't see that many variations at that time. So it's always a question of, do they not need it? Do they not trust it? Is it because there can happen many failures? So what is it like? So in the men's game, when you saw India, what a flick against the best goalie in the world. It's amazing. And yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, we saw one variation yesterday, actually, the Spain, I don't know if anybody saw the goal Spain scored, which was very, very good, and it was a small variation. Kelly, we saw Belgium engineer moments in the match when they really slowed things down, and that sort of game management is absolutely vital when playing in these conditions. From what you've seen of all the teams, which teams do you think are managing the matches the best, in terms of game management? And also, sorry, on the back of that, in use of their substitutions as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that the substitution is the key factor in the conditions. So you can see that they're rolling subs right from the very first minute, not just even the 3rd minute now, just to get those rotations happening. And that's I think a direct relationship with the conditions that we have here, and it doesn't matter if you're in a day game in the searing heat and humidity, or in a night game when it's also incredibly humid, plus they're water the turfs, by the way, so it's extra humid. So those kinds of things, and with slightly smaller squads as well, and inability to kind of carry full numbers as is traditional in some of the other world level events, teams have had to be really dynamic in their thinking and have players play across multiple lines, sometimes just from a resting perspective as well. So I'm not sure I can really comment directly on what teams have done that best, but I think everyone's put a lot of thought into it. And as a result of that, we're still seeing really high level quality matches from teams who haven't had tournaments and tournaments and tournaments coming into this. We remember that we've had a year of very little hockey, and to still have the high caliber of game that we do and have had right through to the end of pool play, and then obviously in the quarterfinals and semi-finals, it's testament to the preparation that's gone in from the individual athletes, then when they come together as a team, and then as they travel through this tournament too. So I think that's been incredibly impressive across both competitions.
Absolutely. I have got some stats here, actually, just a couple. I don't do many stats, but Belgium men have made the most. They've made more substitutions than any other team to this point. They've made 640 in total. By contrast, Argentina men made 265 to their last game. That's quite a big change. In today's match, second match, sorry, Australia made 98 substitutions. And Germany made 93, so they were both very high figures. And in today's game, Belgium made 91 substitutions to India's 84. You don't need to comment on that. It's just some stats for the program. That's it.
But it's interesting to see, and I think that every team has, for the past years, they have all used the subs quite well. Maybe they just slightly adjusted the time frame for strikers, midfielders. But I think credit again to FH and IOC that they're allowed to sub in the reserve players. That makes a magnificent difference, not only on emotional level, but also with the way to deal with all the fatigue and all the circumstances. That's outstanding, because I think just playing with 16 within these circumstances, that would be very tiring for everyone involved.
Is it something you take into account, Amber, the fatigue? So if a player, there's a slightly stumbling sort of tackle, or there's a slight delay in a decision, is it something that you take into account in these conditions?
Yeah, we definitely talk about context and about how people may be feeling in the moment or the time of the game that it may be, and what contributing factors may be related to a situation. And so you definitely take that into account, but it's no different to what you would any other situation in the game. So yeah, you do.
Yeah, cool. Just looking at India's game, Jamie, they lost today, but they have been a fabulous team to watch over the course of this tournament. What has impressed you about them? But also on the flip side, what do you think they need to tweak if they're to be successful in the bronze medal match?
I think it's always entertaining to watch India. It was in the recent years. It's always great to see, but mostly they struggled with their, I would say, mental abilities of being really, really strong, not only on the ball, but also physically and mentally. And I think they have done a good job defensive-wise, far better than in the past. And it seems to me they were very mature about what needs to be done versus Belgium. So they didn't lose the ball that easy. They didn't jump onto the ball that straightforward. They were more calmed down, more composed. So to me, it looks like a very mature team at that moment. And to me, it was a big difference to, for example, to the World Cup, where they have done entertaining things, but at the end lost, to me, deservedly. And for the bronze medal match, unfortunately, Germany is in it. So, but it's to me, it's a great game to watch, because it's also a clash of mentality, strategy, which to me wasn't today the case. With Germany played Australia, pretty similar teams at that moment. But I hope for a win for the Germans. But I think it will be a very, very tough work for them to do there.
Yeah, and a hugely entertaining game in store as well. Lauren, just on a wider question, you've played out in India and you've felt that passion for the game within that nation. How does India men's and women's team performances, no matter what the final result, no matter where they stand in the standings, they're going to be doing very well, aren't they? How does that impact the future of hockey in India in terms of where we move forwards from now?
Yeah, I think both teams, there was a stat that they were the only nation left with a team in the semifinal. So I think for a country that's so passionate about hockey, it can only do good things for them as a nation, and it can only grow the sport even further, and more respect for men's and women's hockey both down there. So I think now that the men are into the bronze, there's going to be a lot of focus on them, but the women still have an opportunity to get to the final. So I'm sure there will be a ton of focus and press coverage on that game, which is exciting for them. So I know that they were thrilled and felt a ton of support on social media in winning their quarterfinal and making it to the semi. So that's fantastic for them and fantastic for the sport just on a global level.
Yeah, I agree. Now, moving on to the second match, Australia versus Belgium. We start off a fantastic goal from Tim Brand, who I think has been absolutely immense during this Olympics. Vinvader made it 1-1, and then Blake Govers put away a fearsome penalty corner to put Australia's nose ahead. Australia sealed it with just under 2 minutes to go when Lachlan Sharp was able to tap into an empty net when Germany removed their goalkeeper. It was a day that Aaron Zalewski celebrated 200 caps, and what a fantastic way to do that. But I wondered, Lauren, can you just sum up Australia's performance, not just today, but actually how they've been building throughout the tournament?
Yeah, I think Australia in pool play was pretty dominant. They showed out one of the best quarters I've ever seen of hockey against Argentina in pool play. It was nearly flawless. So I think in general they've been really gelling well and connecting well, and have progressed nicely through this tournament. They got a scare in that quarterfinal. I think Holland, had nothing to lose. You start a new tournament when it becomes the elimination round. So survived that and moved on. And I think it will be an incredible final. Like Jami said, the clash of titans up there. But overall, I think if they continue performing how they have and just moving the ball and playing the simple passes and executing on penalty corners, they could just as well as Belgium walk away with the gold medal. So they've been incredible this tournament. A really fun team to watch.
Brilliant. I'll come to you in a minute, Jamie, but I was just going to ask, I know, Kelly and Amber, it's difficult for you to comment on teams that are out there, but the circumstances under which Australia have gained their success have been very similar to the situation that you guys have found yourselves in, limited amounts of opportunities to practice on the international stage. But you and they have managed to build themselves into it. How difficult has it been? How difficult as an umpire, but also you will have seen the teams preparing. How difficult has it been for you guys, unable to travel and play the tournaments that, say, for example, the European teams have? And if I come to you first, Amber, on that.
I guess for me personally, I'm in a bit of a unique situation. Where I'm from in New Zealand is a very small place. Before the Rio Olympics, we didn't have a hockey turf. We did all the grass. So I was appointed to Rio umpiring on grass hockey. So I've always had the mentality that all hockey is good hockey. It's what you do with that hockey and how you use that hockey to develop what it is that you want to be doing. We all knew that you were going to have limited hockey going into the Olympics, and it was what you were going to do to prepare yourself with what you had. You can only control what you can control, and you can't control I don't know that New Zealand has a strict border requirement at the moment, and we don't let a lot of other countries in, and so you can't worry about that sort of stuff. You can only worry about the stuff within your control, and so for me, I just focused on making sure that the stuff that I was doing in Gisborne and in New Zealand was purposeful and that had a focus each time. We were really fortunate. We had a New Zealand Australia series not long before we came here. So we got together as a group. We've got 5 Kiwis here on the officials panel. And so we all got together and did a bit of a training camp together. And that was pretty vital to our preparation, I think. So yeah, you got to focus on what you can. And if you can't control it, then you've got to let it go. So.
Yeah. Kelly, sort of a similar question to you. Have you been surprised at how well Australia have managed to progress? But is it, as Amber says, the fact that they've managed to do so much preparation at home that actually they were always going to be a force to be reckoned with?
Look, it's the Olympic Games, You don't come to this gig half-hearted, and you dig deep and you do absolutely everything that you can, and a lot of it is in the top 2 inches as well. So there's all the stuff you can do physically to prepare the games that you can do, as Churchy mentioned. That there's there's a lot that you can control, and you don't look at what you can't do. And the fact that we have limited countries that we're able to access leading in here, and that we might not have the games that others may have access to, but what we do have is positions where we have a lot of hockey going on locally, and we're able to play games, and we're able to play really regularly, and we're able to train with real freedom, and very few restrictions around, you know, the kind of COVID situation as well. So that's been a very nice environment in terms of the preparation. So the games come, and when you're looking at those teams, there's a lot of experience in those teams, and a lot of it is like riding a bike, you know, and once you get going and you get into a tournament and you get into a groove, then those feelings come back, and the feelings of success are nice feelings. So it's easy to latch onto them and ride that momentum. And I think that's what you've seen. Some of these teams have made it through, certainly to the quarterfinals, but obviously through to the semis as well, do. And as just going back to what Amber said as well, is our team environment in terms of the umpires is quite unique too, because we get our appointments, like we got our appointments a year and a half ago to come to this event. So the work for us to be part of a team started back then. And so even though there were 5 of us from New Zealand in the group, we come from all over the world, and we come in together, and we only meet when we arrive after passing our COVID test at the airport. So it's the linking in via online portals and through WhatsApp groups and Zoom meetings and all of that stuff, reviewing video, reviewing footage, all of that work comes together when you hit the ground here, and you try and put it all together, and again, just ride that momentum and do a really good job. So yeah, it's definitely been a challenging one, but it's super enjoyable. So
brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Jamie, you obviously would have been hoping today that Australia hadn't hit the ground running and progressed and everything. What's your take on Germany's performance today?
Before I answer that, Sarah, I just want to mention that I think what comes a bit short is that all involved umpires, technical officials, and especially all teams, it's magnificent what they have done during the Olympics. And when you look back one of the last 1.5 years, what has happened around the world, honestly, I've enjoyed every game I watched, and I haven't seen a team complaining about any kind of circumstances. Everyone was just pleased to be part of the Olympics, and just put in every effort and everything they can. So that was, to me, it was outstanding. And if someone will just watch the games and has no clue about what has happened before, he will not even think about something like this. He will not even consider that they haven't trained or haven't done anything, I would say, regularly. So just about this. So it's amazing what all are doing and all are achieving at that moment to me. And they are all great ambassadors to me, to our sport. That's definitely the case. And yeah, what comes down to the game today, I think Germany, especially in the last 2 quarters, I haven't seen a German team outplaying Australia in this way. It was outstanding, but it stopped at the D. So it was just the 3 quarters of the pitch, they just really outplayed Australia in an amazing way. But inside the D, I need to say Australia has defended incredibly well. Carter has done a good job, but every single player on the field of Australia has done a magnificent job defensive-wise. I think the Aussies have learned their lessons from the last quarters in Tokyo, and also from the semis in London when they played the Germans. And when you see the first goal was amazing. Luckily, Winfeder bounced back with the PCA flick in a great way, and he does it extremely well in the last games during the pool phase. But at the end, then we missed this kind of extra inside of the D, and that can happen if it comes down to such a crucial game with 2 top teams, and then the little things decided. And at that moment, it was the quality, I would not say, but it was maybe a bit of luck, a bit of quality, a bit of defensive work from Australia. And then at the end, deserved win. No one will complain about it, but the Germans have really shown a great show to me, and they will do again when it's about bronze for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a fascinating game, and it did go right down to the wire. I mean, Germany, just look at the stats. Germany had 20 circle penetrations to Australia's 10, which backs up exactly what you're saying. There was an awful lot of attack going forwards, but we just didn't get the feedback from it. Just looking forward briefly then to the bronze medal match and the finals. As you said earlier, Jamie, I mean, Germany-India is going to be a fascinating game between two teams that play very different styles. And then, of course, you've got the cool men of Belgium versus the spirited attacking side of Australia. I'll come to you first, Lauren. What are your thoughts on the final? You know, I know you can't predict a score or anything, but what sort of match can we look forward to?
I think you're just going to see the epitome of hockey in that final match. I think, yeah, there's a lot on the line, but I think both of those teams are exceptionally talented tactically, technically. I think you're just going to see really, really high quality hockey in that final. So I'm not sure what will happen. I'd like to see a shootout just for drama's sake. I'm sure the guys would disagree. But yeah, I think it's just going to be absolutely entertaining from start to finish.
Yeah. And Jamie, your thoughts on the bronze medal match?
On the bronze medal match, I was just thinking about if we again will play with just 11 players, like the boys have done when they faced India
Of course.
a while ago. No, but I expect a really lovely game to watch. Again, also great quality because everyone is keen to grab a medal. That's for sure. No one will become fourth. And it will be an amazing achievement for both of them. For India, we know the expectations are quite high. And what we might miss to say, isn't it lovely to see that the Indian women have done it? And maybe it helps to grow, as Lauren says, it helps to grow the role of the women's hockey sport in India, I hope for, and that it's not always everything is focused on the men. But I'm going for a win for the Germans on bronze for sure. And I'm not really, how do you say, I don't expect an amazing, exciting game in the final because I think it will be very strategic, very, very controlled. And then it's up to, I would say, the last quarter. Then it comes down to the show. And then let's see what happens.
And then, as you say, we might have a shootout as well, which will be so much fun.
I'm not involved. I'm fine.
Just a couple of last things. We've obviously got the semi-finals tomorrow. I'm not going to ask our two umpires for their thoughts on this because obviously, they're within that whole circle. But Jamie, I know we haven't spoken a huge amount about the Netherlands because they've progressed through so smoothly. So I just wondered if you could just talk us through, as a fellow coach, Alison Annan. She's doing a really, really good job in quite a quiet way, isn't she?
She's doing a phenomenal job, and especially like the same expectations with India men in India. It's everybody expects them to win. Everybody's nearly bored when they won it again, and it's peaking once. That happens sometimes to someone, yeah, but peaking every time in a consistent, calm, and really professional way. That really shows quality, and to me, it's outstanding the way she's developing the group because they grew into the tournament, became better and better, and they've done really good Europeans without Velton, without Xander Waard, without Van Assem, and she hasn't complained once. They just moved on. They just have done their job, and now they're again in the semis, and I'm sure they will do again a good job. Although GB surprised me completely. So from what they have brought to the table weeks ago and what they have done now, wow, it's a complete change. It's a complete different team. So really well done by Horry Hager and his staff and the girls. And I think it will be a great semi.
Yeah, it'd be a good game. Lauren, what are your thoughts on that semi?
Well, I think we spoke earlier, Holland, they were winning, but they looked maybe a little out of character. And I think they've totally come back into their own. So yeah, I like Holland. I think it's hard to bet against the number one and somebody who's been so dominant for so long. But like Jamie said, GB is looking strong. And, I think based on 2016, they know that the Dutch can be beat. I think that they'll come in with a lot of confidence into that game and with everything to play for. That sport, that's why you play. So we'll see what happens. But, you can't bet against world number one.
No. But if it comes to shootout, can you bet against Maddie Hinch?
just want to add one thing. Everyone is talking about the 2016 Olympics, isn't it? But no one's talking about, what was it, 0-8 at the semifinal at the Euros 2017? No one's talking about this, for sure not. So it's always, these myths, they're always brought to the table when it's needed. But I think at the end, everybody knows it. It's the top #1 seeded team, and it's a real good experienced side from GB. It's a great clash. It's a great game. But to me, I don't think there will be anyone left on the field who says, yeah, because of 2016, it's our game. You really need to show, you need to really to prove on the pitch within these circumstances that you are a real medal contender. And that's every game. It's the same old story.
Yeah. The other semi-final, and I'm really aware that we're pushing time a bit here, but Lauren, Argentina is a team you know very well. India is a team you know well as well. Your thoughts briefly on that match?
Yeah, I think it'll be exceptionally emotional. Both teams had up and down tournaments throughout pool play, but like I said before, the tournament restarts at the quarterfinal. You see what it means to Argentina. Listening to their anthem, super emotional. I think it'll be a matter of who can keep 11 players on the field and keep those emotions in check, honestly. So I'm looking forward to an entertaining game.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, Amber and Kelly, obviously can't ask you for any predictions or anything like that, but what I am going to ask you both is, to this point, what's been your favourite moment of the games? And that could be something that's either on the pitch or off the pitch, something that's happened. What's made Tokyo 2020 come alive for you? And I'll come to Amber first on that one.
For me, I think it's the uniqueness of this tournament. It was mentioned earlier about how everyone is just really pleased to be here. There's not a lot of complaining about anything. Everyone's worked really hard to make this happen, whether it's the players, it's the teams, it's the IOC, FIH, and everyone's just embracing what it is that needs to be done to make this tournament happen, whether that's the mask being worn at all times, the daily COVID test, the social distancing and the bubble and whatnot. That uniqueness has just been incredible. The support that people are offering each other, not just from home or from the team itself, but even everyone at the pitch is just really happy to see each other, and lots of hellos and how you're going, and understanding that while this is not the Olympics that everyone would have hoped it was, it's unique, and that makes it really special as well. So that's probably my highlight for myself.
Brilliant. Kelly?
A couple of things for me. So there've been loads of on-field highlights, just moments in games, but also special match ups, and I was really to start the tournament, I was on the game South Africa and Ireland, and for me that was a really special game to be a part of, obviously with South Africa and them not being able to compete in Rio. So coming back into the mix here, and also obviously Ireland being in their first Olympics. So that was really special to be a part of what was a really momentous occasion for both of those teams. And following on from what Amber said was just the volunteers around here have, they really make these events happen, and this, like no other, with all of the kind of restrictions that have been in place, they've just been exceptional. Obviously no crowds, but when those teams arrive, they line up and they clap those teams off the bus and into the fields. It's a sight to behold, and nothing's too big a problem. And just the last thing I think for me is one of the themes for the Olympics is united by emotion, and just that phrase, you see it, and you've seen it especially through the knockout phases at the end of pool play. You've certainly seen it with teams either departing or going through, and there have been some incredible scenes of just absolute ecstasy and agony, and you really feel it, and it's the beauty of sport, and it's a real pleasure to be able to witness that and to be a part of it. So that for me is really something special about the Olympics.
Thank you both. That's brilliant. Lauren, this is the last time we see you on the show. I should be quite sad to see you go, actually. I enjoy our chats. What's been your highlight, apart from being on the show, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, apart from being on the show, no, I think it's just been great to have so many hockey games to watch. for me in the States over here, they're either really early in the morning or they're really late at night. So it's kind of been fun to wake up and you're like, oh, what's happened overnight, or you even stay up and you watch a couple of games. But it's been just fantastic to see such a high level of hockey, and kind of inspire us for next time, give us something to go for. So yeah, it's been a joy, but hopefully I'm competing and not on this show next time around. So
yes, I hope not to speak to you next time round. Let's put it that way.
yes, that's where we'll go. But it's been lovely. Yes.
Brilliant. And Jamie, thank you so much for popping on and being our guest today. Your insight is really, really valued. Just very, very, very quickly from you, your highlights of the game so far.
The South African boys, for sure.
Yeah.
The South African boys, they had some great talents. They showed a great show against the Germans and all other teams. Every time, all in, great skills, great boys, great character, and we haven't seen them for long. So it was superb to see them.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you, Kelly and Amber. Thank you so much for being part of the team that makes it happen. Jamie and Lauren, thank you so much for chatting to us today and sharing your insight. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.